World Cup wine line coming to you live from Leadville, Colorado, 10,000 feet. Here we are. Sorry, a couple minutes late here again on the broadcast. And actually, the reason was right as I'm going into the studio, it said, hey, for maximum recording quality, you should plug your computer into the outlets. Then I had to run all the way upstairs, grab the charger, and get back down. But we're ready to go. As I was coming down the stairs, I was thinking to myself, I really should do this instant reaction shows after each day of World Cup because I don't know about you guys, but I set my alarm bright and early, right? 3 a.m., 2 a.m. I'm just joking, but I do often watch these races in the morning and I'm taking notes on them. And I think like if it was fresh in my mind, some of the takes would maybe be better. And also the other thing I kind of want to mess around with, and I might do it today on the show as well, is playing highlights and clips from the actual races. And that stuff is definitely more enjoyable, I think, when it's fresh, hot off the press. I did make a couple of timestamps of the different races of moments I wanted to go back into, and we're going to do at least one of them today. But I think if we just had one race to look at, we could probably dissect more things that maybe athletes of all types of ages would be interested in. What can they take from the World Cup? What are the lessons they can be learned? Actually, lessons to be learned from World Cup racing. We're covering the Davos World Cup weekend, 3 days of racing in Davos. We had a team sprint, we had a sprint, and then we had the individual 10K, all freestyle. And one major takeaway I had from this weekend actually was the fact that what do we do with this Davos weekend? I like the fans. I like some things about the environment. I think it's kind of cool to be at altitude, but like all freestyle for one thing. No classic skiing on a World Cup cross country ski weekend. I feel like that is like anathema for one thing. The sprint course is extremely boring. There's no, interesting facets to the course really at all. It's a 2-lap sprint course that takes like 2 minutes and 15 seconds to do. So that should tell you everything you need to know. With a tricky corner that was causing all kinds of problems all weekend. And then the distance 10K freestyle, I've never skied it. You don't get to see a lot of it. So it's not like an amazing for TV production venue in that regard. But but that's the fairest race I think of, like, okay, maybe we should have that there. I just think if you're going all freestyle in this environment altitude, maybe that's the main reason we had just all kinds of wild results that were coming across. And I think the reason I was trying to pay attention to that, like who was actually on our podiums this weekend? How do these races actually shake out? There was just a lot of craziness, I'll say. I mean, starting with obviously Klæbo not even making it to the semifinals in a sprint and Lucas Shaunova taking the victory. That was kind of the headline story from that day. The team sprint, everything kind of went according to plan, I would say. The Swedes on the women's side take the victory. Klæbo and Valnes on the men's side take the victory. But after that, man, it was just kind of crazy. So I didn't know what kind of stock to put into things. I guess you could say the winner on the men's freestyle, Einar Hedegaard, proving once again that he is in a class of his own in this freestyle event. That seemed to me to be relatively, status quo. But once you start diving through where people finished in the races on the men's and women's side in that distance race, everything even from Diggins, a 5th place, oh my gosh, in her best event. I actually don't, I'm not too concerned by that. But Caroline Simpson Larson takes her first World Cup win, I believe, was in shock after taking the 10K interval freestyle start. And I'm looking over at the results here so I can try and make my point more statistically accurate. So on the men's side, dominated by Norwegians, I guess you could say, through the top 8. They had 7 of the top 8. Andrew Musgrave with a good showing there, 31 seconds off the win in 6. Matisse Deloge in 9th, Hugo Lapalou in 10th. That's nothing absolutely crazy, guess you could say. Florian Notes with a really big performance for the German team in 12th. Nico Antala in 13th. Jules Lapierre in 14th. Moved down a couple of spots. Elia Barb has another good showing. Joe Davies with a good showing at this race, 17th for him. I guess this is kind of where it is a little bit strange. Edvin Unger, he has struggled through this period, won in 20th. Jakob Moak, the freestyle distance races are his best thing, so he only sneaks in a 21st there. We have Saveli Kostalev in 25th. Went out really hot, really died throughout this latter half of that race. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Russians' performances as well. Iver Tildheim Andersen, 28th place. That's crazy. That's crazy stuff. I don't know what happened. First American, Johnny Hagenbuck, places 30th. So we just had one American in the World Cup scoring ranks. I think that's another thing that we're kind of like, as American fans, antsy about. We had two guys, Jack Young and Ben Ogden, really give us something to cheer about, some excitement, making it all the way to the sprint finals, getting 4th and 5th. But then on the distance side, to have Johnny be our best guy at 30th, Kevin Bolger in 40th, JC Schoonmaker was 39th. Sorry, I passed over him there. I don't want to miss someone. Xander McMullen, 46th. Ben Ogden, 44th. Let's see, sliding down a little bit. Were those all our American starters on the men's side? Another crazy one way back. What happened here? Might have to listen to the Scarious Problems podcast. Mika Vermeulen in 50th. It says he dropped 18 spots from at the 10K. So I don't know if he was in the... But even that's like not even relevant at all for him. So was he sick? What was going on? Was it the course? Is it Davos? Is it Fast Snow? These are all thoughts that I'm kind of trying to work through as I contemplate and digest this Davos weekend. If you want to help me along by joining the conversation, feel free to. You can hop into our public chat. We're broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook. We already have someone who's hopped in the chat here, Hedegaard Clutch, 4 weeks in a row. Absolutely. This guy is nuts. I have him on we gotta chat about this man because he's not on the Norwegian national team. He's left biathlon. Obviously, that's like a crazy storyline. And it's got, 4 World Cup starts and 2 victories and 3 podiums. Let's pull up his fish page on our Hedegaard. We have the kids coming home as well as we're coming in on the Cedar Skier Podcast live stream. You're getting a little bit of a real feel for what it's like here in the studio. Ajay's taking a nap because we just finished actually a delightful 3-hour double pole around Turquoise Lake on snowmobile tracks. We're holding on with this 46-degree weather. He has 5 starts, 4 podiums, 2 victories. An incredible start to his World Cup career for the 24-year-old. Maybe we should hop in right there. Vermeulen crashed? Okay, that's what I got in the chat there. I was wondering if that was the case, but still. So did he crash early on in the 10K interval start? Looks like he was at 5K. Vermeulen was in 34th, and he had dropped 9 spots. So that means at 2.7K, 25th. And it says he had moved up 18 spots. Where did the crash happen, I wonder? If you know that, pop it in the chat. Otherwise, also, I need to throw this link in here so we can get some people sending us talkbacks. That's one of the unique features of the live Cedar Skier Podcast World Cup WhineLine is you can click on the link I've just thrown in the chat. If you click that, you can send us your 90-minute hot take. And we do have a couple of them, it looks like. Wow. I've received a couple on the inbox here. We have Taco Bell guy coming in. We have three things that we're going to play. This is fantastic. I'm looking forward to this. We got to talk World Cup. We got to talk Super Tour. I'm all discombobulated. I'm not organized. I'm still thinking about my own ski up around Turquoise Lake at this point. So many things to get to. We also have guests coming on the show. We're hoping to have Erin Manning join us maybe around 12:30. She might come on a little bit before, a little bit after. We're not really sure. So looking forward to that as well. But yes, feel free to join the conversation here. World Cup WhineLine episode 2, which I'm glad that we're getting some interactions in the chat at least. It lets me know that we are streaming out there somewhere. We are coming to you from 10,000 feet. Here we are. Let's see. Okay, let's break down the World Cup weekend from my notes in more chronological order, starting with the team sprint. The first thing that was noteworthy or newsworthy for the team sprint was the fact that the U.S. women did not field a team. Gavin Kench over at Nordic Insights, he had a little statement. I'm pulling it up here now because I didn't have the article ready for me right away, but got a statement from Matt Wickham regarding the decision to not have a team fielded by the American women. The quote here, I'm going to read it. This is from Nordic Insights. Matt Wickham said, "It's certainly not ideal that we aren't participating in the women's team sprint on Friday, but I stand by the athletes' decisions because the rationale makes sense," he wrote. "This weekend holds a lot of value for athletes who are trying to qualify for the Olympics, and the team sprint is not a qualifying event. Given that it is the first event for the weekend, competing Friday could compromise athlete performance on Saturday and Sunday. This is a sensitive period for the team as we have arrived from sea level to over 5,000 feet and are still within our acute acclimatization phase. Many athletes are being very measured with their output. Lastly, this is our third weekend in a row of having 3 events, and racing the full calendar is unsustainable. So in spite of it being a bummer, I stand by the athlete's decision to not compete." The one I think I'm like kind of totally on board with that the move by the American women, at least at the top end, like Jesse, Julia, maybe Rosie, maybe Elena, to be thinking this is an Olympic year. I've done all these races. I want to be sharp. There's nothing really at stake for me here. However, I was curious, like with some of the athletes who haven't had the greatest start to their season, would it have been advantageous to hop in there and one more chance to show what you can do in a team sprint freestyle race situation? Because am I off on this? Is the Olympics? It is a team sprint freestyle, I believe, right? Because it'll be individual classic sprint. Wouldn't the team sprint be freestyle? Oh gosh, look at me spreading false information. Olympic. We have a comment. Wickham's explanation is weak sauce. Well, I'm not sure what necessarily would you want it to have as a. I understand why someone like Jessie Diggins would not want to do this race, and I feel like there's nothing she has to show. She probably feels she's got an Olympic spot locked up. She's going to be probably in this event, right? So I'm okay with her taking the rest day there. I was kind of more curious though if Elena Sonneson is the one that I would be like, if I was in her position, would you want that opportunity to be like, I'm going to take the shot if it's available. I'll be in. I'll hop in the team sprint with someone like Julia Kern or Rosie Brennan, or heck, even like Kate Oldham or someone else. Sorry about that. Who has not? I need to take a drink from my Skiologians mug here. Now that we have images, video, I feel like people will really appreciate my cup. Someone who maybe could prove something from the team sprint. That was the only thing I thought maybe we could have seen happen on the U.S. women's side. Other than that, the only other weak sauce I would maybe add is like, I don't totally buy the 3 races in a weekend is so crazy, especially when you know you got coming up like this sort of Christmas break. You can kind of exhale a bit more there. But I mean, once you get into the grind, everyone's kind of on, energy management, energy load management, whatever. And so, it's hard for me to say whether it's crazy or not having actually been on the World Cup and feeling that stress. But in general, I don't have a problem with it, other than, again, are there 2 athletes who maybe they feel like they're more Olympic long shots sitting there going in a meeting, hey, I would take an opportunity at the team sprint if I could. But anyway, team sprint wasn't all that great. The only other notes I kind of had here is that the crashes started in the team sprint. We saw some crashes there, so it was already like, oh gosh, what's going on? I don't remember that when I did this broadcast for the Davos a couple of years ago. I did it with the Pellegrino when he defeated Klæbo the day that or 2 days after his son was born, I think. Which, how about that heartwarming moment? I felt bad for Pellegrino when he just started his kick a little too late, and he really should have beaten Shanova. He just needed to start at about like a hundredth of a second earlier. But I think they showed the cameras where he was kind of embracing his son, his wife. The family was there, and you could kind of see in his eyes like he really wanted to make his final Davos moment, do it for his kid, win the race. What better opportunity? Klæbo's not even there. He's done it before. He even beat Klæbo there. I kind of felt bad for him as like the young dad in me. It was like, I feel for you there. I know what you wanted to do. I'm too bad. I'm sorry it didn't happen. But the other thing, some other interesting notes here on that last lap. I felt like we saw some really good movement from Benjamin Moser and Jan Stolben, future Cedar Skier podcast guest. Jan Stolben, the young German sprinter. He hasn't started the year like amazing, I would say. So when I saw him in the team sprint making moves, trying to bump up into the top 5, I was getting kind of excited. Like, all right, maybe he's sort of finding his rhythm and his form here. I think he's maybe one of the better, if not the best, German sprinter. So that's a name you'll want to look out for. And I think it's this week we're going to post our interview with him. So keep your eyes out for that. We have a little 25-minute chat, preseason chat with Jan Stolben. He was making some move on that last lap. But generally, and Spain was in 5th going into the final exchange. Yami Puello, the former Cedar Skier podcast guest as well. I know we're referring to all these athletes in that way. He had a great showing this whole weekend. We have to get to the sprint thing. I know some people are like, what are you talking about? What about the crash? He was out. He had a good performance, and he was understandably frustrated because I think he was primed to do something great. And unfortunately, the crash with JC Schoonmaker disrupted that. But going into the final exchange on the team sprint side, even having Spain be relevant, I thought was kind of different, right? We had all sorts of crazy things happening at this World Cup, and that was one of them. VK, I wrote here, terrible final turn. Went from 2nd to like 7th on the last leg. That's not good for him. He is out of the running for this now. You can tell I'm doing this in like the present time. I don't know if you guys remember this, but the Norwegians moving, controlling the whole thing from the front. It's embarrassing how easily Klæbo can separate from everyone, which is what he did. VK was on the other team. They were kind of going back and forth. And VK's got he's sort of one of those sprinters I feel like that every single race matters a ton because he probably has the talent, I think, to be better than Valnes. And so for sure to be like one of those 4 that gets a sprint opportunity. Maybe it's Klæbo, Valnes, VK, and Ansgar Evensen. And like Evensen has a little more pedigree, a little more experience, so he's kind of more the safer pick. But VK, it's like, dude, but that guy could like win maybe. He's got some serious power and everything. So I felt bad for him in the team sprint, really sliding out. I think it was on that final turn maybe where he just lost it. So that's something I think we need to do like a technique breakdown and show some of these lines. I got an email from Jim Glannis the other day, and he was telling me, he's like, have you been noticing in some of these final turns, like Heidi Wang in the skiathlon in Trondheim just lost the race to Diggins kind of by taking a bad line around the final turn, really lost some momentum. And then it really was this weekend was, everyone had a different approach to that final turn. And some people, it seemed like I felt like most people were trying to take like the wide approach to maintain speed and kind of like hopefully not find a snow snake. Although it seems like the wider approach, while you maintain speed, you increase the risk of having the snow snake. And then others like Jack Young was like, no, I'm going to take shortest distance all the time. Like he was tight on the corners, and it really seemed to work for him. And so anyway, all these, the VK and the team sprint, there was a lot of opportunities to really dissect, like how do we corner, and maybe look at it, to help young racers, identify the best thing. I got another thing in the chat here. It says the only one Puello should be mad at is himself for not skiing ahead of the others. Yeah, let's hop into the actual sprint, the sprint day. So Kern and Diggins bow out in the first round for the U.S. Another nice showing for Laura Giemler in the top 10. Dahlquist was showing us the hop skate. We saw it in the team sprint, saw it in Heat 1, kind of a total separation thing. This is a little bit of a storyline because Sundling has this hop skate that's very exclusive to her, very powerful. I think Dahlquist is the one sprinter with like the athleticism, it seems like, to kind of match her top end speed wise. But Dahlquist is very lethal when she can smell the finish line. Usually I haven't seen her like really make moves out on the course as much. Of course, this course is one where there's really only one opportunity to make a move. So maybe that's why her hop skate came out. But I wrote this in my notes like, wow, if she can do that, why doesn't she do that all the time? She could be the person who matches Sundling. Sheestead obliterated on the hop skate portion in the semis. Oh yeah, I was getting to this point with I know, sorry, Taco Bell guy in the comments. We'll get to the men's race too, breaking down a little bit of the women's first. I was getting to this point on the women's side with Sheestead, where I'm like, I think we just got to put a fork in Sheestead. I don't know. Like, I love the drama. I love what she brings to the World Cup. I just am not feeling her this year. I don't feel like the performances are there. It's like she's all drama. Like you need to come and show up and actually like put a stamp on this or something. And it was like the minute I was typing this, she just wasn't looking great, especially in skate. And if you can't hop skate, how are you going to keep up with something? And then she really kind of like does the deceiving Sheestead thing where she's way on the outside making up speed. And I think it was in the first heat or the quarter of the semi, one of them. The semi was the one she got DQ'd, so it might have been the quarter where she just like kind of was sneaky, and all of a sudden she's there and she's moving the fastest in the final straightaway. She has a way of finding speed in the straightaway that is unlike anyone else. And I don't know if it is the height, the ability to really leverage that, where like her capacity for top end speed is a lot bigger than everyone, because like once the gears start going, you need to have a big gear, right? But it takes a long time for her to like, I feel like, find that rhythm, and it doesn't always happen. She's not as urgent and calculated. It's like she needs more the ability to like reach top speed every single time. And then also have the ability and the awareness to not put herself in these really precarious situations. We saw her sliding away off course in Trondheim, not advancing for that reason. And then this time, running into Nadine Fendrich and kind of bumping her out and getting DQ'd. When I watched that, I thought to myself, like, oh, is that going to be a DQ? To me, I felt like that was one of those, it's just kind of, it's kind of racing, isn't it? I mean, I don't know the letter of the law, so I could be totally off on that. But I thought, I wasn't totally sure if I was with that DQ. Heck, if you're not going to DQ Hegstrom when she just literally, cuts in front of Jessie Diggins in Trondheim, like I have never seen a cut across, just skis across her skis, basically. Then how can you DQ Sheestead, especially on a day where that turn was so squirrely for everyone? There's my take. One thing we got to point out: Sundling heard us, went with the thin pink Hefstra gloves today, but Lynn Svan decided to wear the oven mitts, and was, I'm sure, very nice and cozy and cute with those mittens, but it cost her with the extra warmth. There's my clip. Let's clip that. Make sure we get that on Instagram. We'll increase our popularity, hopefully, with the Swedish women. The other big takeaway, I think, from this race, Matilda Miervold, who almost walked away with the win, very much like Pellegrino, where if she had just started making that kick a little bit sooner, actually with Miervold, I think it was two things. Maybe started it and too late, and then was like, wow, I was a lot closer than I thought, and the result looked closer because Sundling had such a big gap and was like, I didn't even know you were there. I could have poured it on more if I needed to. Or if it was the fact that Miervold kind of abandoned the technique she had been benefiting from in the first two rounds. Her strategy was just, I'm going to go out the whole way, all out the whole way. Like, we're going to just time trial this thing in the quarters and the semis. And that, I think, ended up taking some serious sting out of Dahlquist by the final. Because when I was watching the first quarter, I thought, I think this is going to be a Dahlquist-Sundling battle. If Dahlquist has the spunk at her step, like, watch out, because that long finishing straight is good for her. And if she can hop skate a little bit and just be in position and draft behind Sundling, it'll be fun. But Miervold, I was just like, I'm not going to wait till the second lap. I'm going to gun it. And I think she did that in the quarters and the semis. And then in the final, whether it was Sundling going, I saw that, I'm not going to let you do that, or it was Sundling going, I can do that too, and I can do it better than you. Something there where like it was Sundling and Miervold trying to pull away. And that's where I think they separated themselves from the rest of the race. And then when Sundling made her characteristic break on the hill, Miervold was kind of like, well, I'm going to get second here. And then around the turn, it was like she must have just. We may have to go back and watch the final turn to see kind of what happened there. But she had a good weekend, I think, in general. And if we're talking about Sheestead's on the down, Miervold's on the up, one takeaway I think for the Norwegian team, I think maybe I would start Miervold, and then who's the other sprinter that they had in the team sprint event? I have to pull up Sheestead's FIS page. I think they paired Sheestead with let's see here. I can pull it up here. Kristen Fosnes, that's what I was thinking of. So the team sprint, Sheestead and Fosnes got third as Norway won, and Norway 2 was Astrid Ora Slind and Mathilde Miervold. That's kind of actually an interesting storyline, to be honest. The fact that your top team lost. I wouldn't put Astrid or Slind in a team sprint situation. I mean, I guess you could, but like I sort of feel like Fosness is going to be better than Slynn. I think the best team would have been Fosness and Mirvold. And that's nothing to say if like maybe there's some other sprinters and they're true sprinters, like Tyrrell Udensveen gets her act together or something. I don't know, like that you'd actually want there. But I think Mirvold feels to me like a lock for the team sprint if she wants it. She seems like Norway's best sprinter at the moment. All right, it's 12:27. I feel like I need to play one of our talkbacks, get some of the chats rolling, and then we can maybe hop into chatting a little bit about the men's team sprint, do a little bit of a dissection. So if you want to take part in our conversation right now, you can comment in the chat, you can comment on Facebook or YouTube where we're streaming, or you can send us a talkback at the link that is in the chat. It goes to our SpeakPipe page. And let me get this audio ready here. So this is one of our talkbacks we got. I love it. I love it. Well, I can't say anything right now on the Zach Ketterson thing, although I probably need to get over to the YouTube page and check because I bet he has an update there. But I do know Sophia Laukley. I was thinking the exact same thing, and I think that I even asked it on the show very briefly, didn't dive into it, but she did post on Instagram here 4 days ago, and I made a note of this that we have to put this in here. Oh no, can't hear the talk back. We can't hear the talk back. This is a disaster. Oh no. Hmm. Hold on a second. Well, I know one way I can switch it so that we can do that. Let me try this again. Hold on a second, people. I don't know why that would happen because my audio input should just be coming from that. One minute. Hmm. Hold on a minute. I don't think we had problems on the live stream last time when we were playing the our background music, but perhaps we did, which means wait a minute, hold on. We'll fix the talkback issue once we come back. We have a guest on. Aaron, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
All right, that's awesome. I'm glad you're there. And we had someone putting in the chat. We can't hear your talkback. I was playing audio and I think they can hear you, but if you can't hear Aaron, please comment in the chat immediately. And let us know because maybe there's a way we can mute me and we can have you take it away. But yeah, thanks for hopping on our show here, our live stream, our little World Cup WhineLine project. I think as a fellow Minnesotan, are you a Vikings fan? I mean, are you aware of FanLine, the inspiration
I
there?
definitely grew up listening to FanLine. Love the idea. I think it's fantastic. And definitely have my complaints. So ready to roll.
Oh my gosh, oh, this is great. Hold on, I'm
Well,
gonna.
and my one question was, so they have the famous horn introducing FanLine in Minnesota, the Vikings horn. So I was curious what your if you're gonna do like cowbell, how you're gonna make something like that happen.
Wow. As you probably could predict, I wasn't prepared. I was out skiing, and I was happy that the live stream started at 12:02 today versus 12:45 the other day. But well, I definitely need to think of that. Ajay, add that to the notes of production notes. We need to have a horn or a something. I have way too many bells. We could definitely get that going. But all right, open us up though. What's your complaint you got? I want to hear it.
Well, I guess I was ready to complain on Friday after the team sprint. I was definitely disappointed disappointed that the U.S. teams just weren't in the final. Women's didn't have anyone on the start. And I understand being an Olympic year why that is, but just as a viewer, it's a little more boring when there's not as much going on, not as many athletes to cheer for. But you know what? I did take away my complaints after the rest of the weekend. It was very entertaining. Enjoyed Saturday and Sunday, so little less to complain about on that side.
Yeah, I think we had talked about this at the beginning too. I was kind of curious when I read Matt Wickham's statement on the Nordic Insights. I feel like someone like Jesse, where it is a little more load management. Like, what am I getting from this? I can see why she might go, this might be the day I'm gonna like take a break. I was curious if tied to the Olympic qualification, proving things, if someone like an Elena Sonneson would be like, oh, this might be my shot. Like, I definitely want to take a shot. And if it was when he says like the whole team decided, was everyone actually on board, or were there some people in the back like raising their hand like, wait?
I mean, I think it could have been really fun to see Lucy Anderson and Lena both hopping in as a team. They're both pretty good skaters. It would have been interesting. I know Elena doesn't typically do as good at altitude, but it would have just been interesting um, to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Lucy was the one. I said Kate Oldham, and I think in my mind, Lucy was the one I actually
Yeah.
would have been maybe a little more interested. No offense to Kate, she's great too. But yeah, some of those athletes where it's like they don't have as many opportunities, and they might be kind of sitting on the radar. Where if they bust out some like third place finish or even a fourth, and they beat the Germans, and it's like, oh, you guys are legit there, right? So that was the only thing there. And then, of course, the guys had some. I feel like JC's just having some really bad luck this year. Are you feeling this?
Oh, I'm bummed for him. Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially I think for the US team, they're not the Norwegians, they're not the Swedish women specifically, but making the Olympics on the US team is definitely easier than those bigger nations. But just as an athlete with confidence, you always want to feel confident heading into the season, especially a big year like this year. And I'm sure he's definitely chatting with coaches, even if it's just all luck. It does hit your confidence and make you wonder what could be going on if the results aren't there.
yeah, yeah. And on that too, like the sprint, it's so much in your head. I think Ben Ogden. I felt like in Trondheim, it looked to me like he was like thinking so hard. Like I could see him thinking, what do I do? I've done everything. I think there's a clip of him actually a couple years ago saying, what, sometimes I take it out hard. Sometimes I try to sit back. Sometimes I do something in the middle. It doesn't seem to work. You know, like I'm just going to try this or that. And I feel like he's at the point in his career. He has tried almost every strategy. And in Trondheim, in the semis, even he was like, I'm not even totally sure what I should do. I'm looking around, you know, and then this one, he looked more relaxed. And I think again, that turn was just giving everyone all sorts of fits. But they, like you said, we had something to cheer about. I think on day two for sure in the sprint with the two of them. So, what were your thoughts on the individual sprint? I don't know if you want to start on the girls' side or the
Oh,
guys' side.
absolutely. Well, I think when you see clay ball on the ground, you know a turn is giving people some trouble. That is pretty much an. I actually pulled up the statistics because I was curious the last time Claybo hadn't been out of the quarterfinals. Do you know this?
Yeah, it was his debut,
His
right?
World Cup debut in
Yeah.
2016. He was 16th place overall, and since then he's been in a semifinal at least every single sprint race, which I was that's wild.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then the 24 sprint wins in the row from Claybo too. That's just it was bound to happen, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's hard not to get a little delight out of that because it's just different. Um,
Yeah.
but I think individual sprint. I really liked to see the three American women make heats, and you had what Jessie and Julia and Elena, and then Rosie was super close as well. So I think out of out of the sprint races so far, that's probably best showing by the American women.
Yeah.
And I also really liked seeing Jessie pick Heat one for the quarterfinals. She's done that. She do that in, was it Trondheim that she did it as well, or maybe Ruka, one of the two. But I like seeing her switch it up because she's been in the later heats for so much of her career. It's fun to see that she's giving something else a try.
Do you think she has a reason for that? Because, like, actually, her strategy of waiting, advancing seems better for the overall chase. Do you think is this like an Olympic sharpening? I better mix it up and try to practice tactics more.
That's definitely my guess is the Olympic sharpening. If I had to guess with the overall Davos, besides hitting those individual races, she's gonna probably, if I had to guess, get some good points during the Tour de Ski. If she plays it the way she has in the past, using the Tour de Ski as a sharpening tool for the Olympics. Usually the um, Swedes won't, they'll probably not show up. They typically really like to take time off for those races, for big races, Olympics, World Champs, and so it's just very fun to. I think it'll be good for Jesse to get some good overall points during Tour de Ski. Um, but I think yeah, Heat One is gonna be that's sharpening for Olympics. I mean, there's just you want to be able to you want to be adaptable. You want to be able to. It pretty much Heat One was like a final of any other
Yeah.
race, and
Right.
that's great. The more time you can practice finals without actually getting into the final, that it helps. So I that would be my guess.
We have the comment in the chat says Manning for permanent co-host of WhineLine, bringing facts. I don't know if that's a shot at me, Taco Bell guy, that I don't bring. Also, I would, if you notice, I was ready. I had the answer on that one. I also had to pull up the Klabo thing because he has started 78 sprints in his career and he has 71 podiums, which to me is like is as crazy as that stat, right? The winning 24 times. How about not just making the final 71 of 78 times, but being on the podium and obviously a lot of those are victories. 60 of them are wins. His win rate in sprints is truly astounding. I thought I was kind of shocked though that he was so mad given the way he lost. And the reason I say that is um, he had a lot of things go wrong in that. For he had the slip that could have really happened to anyone. Yeah, of course it never happens to him. Closed circuit to Chad Samala. Does this count as him almost falling? Right? I know he always makes a mention of it. Right? He's like, I've never seen him fall, and I was like, cat like reflexes. He didn't even actually fall. Like that was the craziest
I
thing
think
ever.
him tripping, we can count it as a fall.
I don't know.
We haven't seen anything like that from him. Definitely, I would count it as a fall. But I mean, you think about sprints, and we were just talking about luck. I think that a lot of times he's really good at making himself have good luck. That's a skill
True.
that he has. And so he's probably annoyed that in any other scenario, if that had happened to him, he probably would have been able to not only not do it again, but he would have recovered from it. And so the fact that not only did he have issues in the same corner and also couldn't recover from that, if I had to guess, that's why he was so angry.
Well, the
Um,
thing is though, he did recover it. That happened in lap one.
mhm.
There was a he was in second, and it was like wow. Even after that, he's gonna be fine. And then it was like the corner the second time where he really kind of found himself way out of position, had to cross the entire field. So I was kind of wondering it was, and I think Andrew Kastning said something along the lines of like he was kind of taking, he just took it a little bit too much for granted. Which, like, if you're mad at something, you're mad at yourself for like, wow, okay, this is why greatness never takes a day off,
Well,
right?
and from what I heard, the men weren't given that they couldn't ski the course after the women's heat, so they really didn't know what it was like. I think after everyone saw that first heat, they definitely took it differently. But you even saw in the final, Ben took it poorly on the second
Right.
lap. There was lots of instances where that corner messed people up all day. So,
Yeah, it seemed like Jack Young's approach was I'm going to take inside line everywhere. He did it all the turns, which this is maybe not that big of a deal, but on the first one where you go up the hill, he would get some good speed on the straightaway, and then he like would just he just like didn't even use his arms. He's just stepping around. And I know it's not a lot, but like even just for 20 seconds to not be using your arms at all and then to go right into that, it was almost like this little he was taking the hill, he was a little bit fresher. And then on the sketchy turn, it's like I think the conventional wisdom is you want to maintain your speed, right? That's better than shortest distance, but this race it did not seem that way. I don't know if
I
that
mean,
was Yeah.
Yeah, in general, I was really impressed with how Jax skied both the quarter and semi. Ben, of course, like it was fun to see them both ski like they belong there. You kind of expect that from Ben at this point, but really, Jack looked like he's been in finals before, and it was really, really neat to see how confidently he skied. And I think that that's the one bonus of being on such a talented American men's team. They really all give each other that confidence that they belong in those heats.
Someone in the chat says Jack Young and Solomon Poles iconic duo. Trust me, I was looking to make sure the Solomon Poles were still there because it's one of my favorite aspects to Jack having it's so great. You're right. He does look composed. He does look like he belongs there. He looks like an athlete. And now we just need to get we got to get JC up there because my concern is I feel like he is the one with the highest end potential. Maybe Jack's there too.
I mean,
JC.
Jack's first World Cup ever, like World Cup qualify in your first World Cup ever, I think that means
That's
you
true.
got some good top end speed. I think JC looks like a sprinter. He looks a lot like those the, he'll take up some space.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I think Jack could be once he just gets a couple finals under his belt, I think he's right up there with JC.
What do you make of the American performances, especially especially the men have this, the women have it too, but it's a separate question I think that's a little bit tweaked in my mind. But of the men, the dichotomy of like we have Ben in Trondheim qualifying first, and then the distance race, he's not really relevant. And I feel like he's a better all around skier than that. This weekend, we got a bunch of guys in there, three guys in the heats, whatever, right? Two guys in the finals. And then the distance races, it's like Johnny's our top guy at 30th. Why is that the case right now? Because some people have said to me, well, is it a fitness thing? Like this is period one, typical working out the kinks kind of thing. It's like, yeah, but if that was the case, how are they also turning around some of these really stunning sprint performances too? Like I feel like they're fresh. Or not, I shouldn't say fresh. I feel like they're sharp enough to compete, right? It seems like there's something else bizarre going on, but either way,
Yeah.
I'm shocked it's this big of a dichotomy. Like I
I've
would
been
be
thinking about this a lot. It's definitely something that you look at the bigger countries and you know that the Norwegians are trying to show up and really trying to prove themselves that they belong in that Olympic team. You know that the Swedish women feel the same pressure as well, and the Swedish men are probably getting there with the amount of depth that they have. But you also see the Italians are having really good start of the season. The French team is looking really strong. There's been standout. I would say in almost every single race, there's smaller nations who surprise me in the top 15 of the results. And I have been really disappointed with the how the Americans have started the season. I'd say the sprint races are definitely some of the better races, and then you have to give your cap off to Zach Ketterson and Jesse Diggins. Like they've been holding down the fort on the distance side, but it's hard for me to completely just say it's an Olympic year. They're trying to target the Olympics because all these athletes are also trying to prove that they belong on the Olympic team. The
right.
men I think are now going to have 7 spots, the women 8. I actually think it's going to be probably more up in the air on the women's side. I think the men you have that those solid names that you know and that are gonna probably be on the team. But it I there's something going on, and I don't know if it's skis. I don't know if it was a training philosophy because it is. I believe you talked about it last week about how it's not just from one team. It's not just skiers from APU or skiers from out east or out west, Midwest. Like everyone is kind of in the same boat on the US team. So not really sure what's going on there. And I would also say in general, the US tends to start pretty slow. Usually there's always the comment, oh, it's period one. It takes a while for us to get used to traveling again. It takes a while to get used to the time zone change. There's a lot of stress that the US team goes through that the European teams don't have.
Right.
But this is much worse than normal. So
Yeah, yeah.
I,
That's the thing is that it's worse than normal, and there's like
yeah.
there's valid excuses, and the other thing, I guess maybe I have to take a step back and go, okay, this is a particularly hot Norwegian trials. So on the men's side, because that's the other thing is like maybe we're starting slow. Also, maybe Norway's really coming in really strong, so it's kind
But
of
you're
making.
always going to have those top Norwegian athletes. They're always going to be taking up those spots. It doesn't quite account for time back. It doesn't account
Yeah,
for compared to the other smaller nations as well. And so I'd be curious at the end of the season if we hear anything else. But the U.S. team is also they're I'll give it to them. They're very loyal. They rarely throw anyone under the bus. So I have a feeling even if there is a issue, we probably won't hear about it. But you gotta hope. You just gotta be hopeful that things will turn around for the Olympics because that's what we're all here for. That's what we're excited for.
it's probably a good question for in May at a Congress going like, is there something we can do to be more relevant in period one versus like, what did you guys do wrong? Who
Well,
dropped the ball kind of a thing?
I think it's a really valid question because if when it starts the season slow, U.S. fans kind of become disinterested. Uh, you
True.
have Tour de Ski is always a good way to bring people back in, but if we're trying to stay relevant in a U.S. market that is already pretty disengaged, having bad first couple races is not a great way to do it.
I'll give Gavin credit. Gavin Kentr is the one who kind of pointed out that it's all the different clubs from all across the country. What's the coincidence of that? So shout out to him for kind of pointing that out in his question that we read on the show. What was the thing? Oh, you mentioned the men's versus women's. I think you're kind of right, which is interesting. The men, we kind of know who probably is going to be there, and I guess I haven't done a deep dive too much on the Super Tour. Is there like maybe a shocker there on that side that could sneak in or whatever? Ketterson's giving us this fun storyline. He has kind of hooked people in a little bit, and maybe there's some bulletin board material of, oh yeah, he kind of got snubbed for the team this year. I would also say in defense of the US ski team for doing that though, like saying like, sorry, you didn't meet this criteria. Um, that is probably half of the reason for him going, I'll show you kind of a thing, which I think is good. And I think there's a level of maturity that even in talking to guys like Grover, he recognizes he has to be the guy who says no. And he's the guy who is going to get flack for it because you said no to Rosie Brennan. It's like, yeah, but my no was the thing Rosie needed to hear. Like my no is the thing Ketterson needed to hear. My only pushback now, though, is if it happens enough, do we maybe have to rethink like this whole idea of we'll make it a little bit easier the younger you are, harder the older you are? To me, I just go, look, if you're a 21-year-old stud and you can't take down the 28-year-old guy that's sort of middle of the road, then go back and get better, right? Like you,
Yeah, but what if it also means if they're like, I think also you have to think about the support it gives them. If you're a 21-year-old, you're gonna have less connection, you're gonna have less sponsors, you're gonna have less resources to actually get the support to show up and race. So I think that the fact that it gives younger athletes the opportunity to stay, to have more support, I think it helps keep them in the sport longer, if I had to guess. But going back to Zach, I adore him. I was his college teammate. I lived with his wife Julie for a year in college. So I really, really am excited to see him do well this year. I know that he definitely had a chip on the shoulder after not getting the U.S. ski team nomination in the spring or later in the year. I think he had a pretty good idea in the spring. But I would also note I think that the US ski team was very generous over the last couple years, and gave him a lot of spots that maybe people felt like he didn't deserve. And I know if you have the time, Chad Samala wrote an amazing piece of congratulating Zach on his success and how a lot of the success he's found this year is because Zach was able to sit down and figure out where he needed to improve and how to do it and like limit distractions, all of that. And Chad also recognizes that as well. Like he fought for Zach to have spots many, many times that people did not think that he deserved. So maybe a chip on the shoulder was really good for him this year. But I'm excited to see. I'm hoping he can. His home base is in Norway this year, so he'll be home in Norway for the holidays, and I hope to keep seeing it go up and up.
yeah, I haven't watched his latest like YouTube, so I don't know if he answered this question, but where was he this weekend for Davos?
I actually don't know either. Yeah, I have not seen it as well.
Okay. The other name that's a little bit incognito or has been now is Sophia Laukley, and she wrote on Instagram this kind of long post. She's out of commission temporarily, of course. It's been a long time coming to truly address the struggle and hole I've been in, and finally take a substantial step back. Maybe a year or two late, but trial and error is often the only way to find out. I'm not one to change my plans, even when I know it's necessary. There's always a hope of defeating the odds and logic, but wake up calls eventually happen, and the frustration of not feeling myself or reaching my potential has finally outweighed my love for planning and following that plan. Time to get logical. I'm going to take a step back so that I can, in fact, find my level again and get the fun back. That means pulling the plug on World Cup and racing for the time being and leaving the rest of the season unknown. That was not the plan, of course, but it's the only way I can make that comeback I'm dreaming of and am 100% confident in possible. I'll eventually get into the story behind my crash and burn, how I found myself here, why it's been 2 years of the same old story, and why it takes a long ass time. Sorry, I usually don't say those bad words, Ajay. Put it up.
Yeah,
It's
your family-friendly podcast. Got to keep it in check.
bad. Oh man, reading Lockley post. But lastly, most importantly, why the comeback is possible. Oh, sorry, to know what the right thing to do is. But lastly, and most importantly, why the comeback is possible because of the people and support I have behind me. For the time being, that's enough reading and writing and sentimental hugging slash crying pics to get the story started. I have to give her some credit for being transparent here. It's kind of shocking news. I don't know if you saw that. Like um, I was curious, wondering what's going on, and it has been 2 years, kind of like this
Yes.
mysteries thing, and my you can't go back. Hindsight's 2020, and I think I've kind of when I originally sort of fell in love with Laukley's story and her talent. To me, I was like, look, you're an aerobic monster. Like you might be the type of athlete who really truly targets Alpe Tremie and like some other really tough courses, and you make a ton of money doing trail running, and you live an amazing life because you basically get to do two sports year round. It seemed like that kind of worked, but it seems like she sort of saw it differently and maybe was like, and maybe she loves skiing, really doesn't like trail running. I don't really know, but it's like when she kind of fell into the Norwegian mix, it's almost like we can make you the American Therese Johaug. Just we need to get you a little stronger and a little more meat on the bones, and like running can be secondary. And like I feel like if you go back in time, you just someone tell her this, like, look, this is maybe the reality in skiing, and you've already got some incredible successes running. Like you are destroying people. Now she has neither. It seems like.
Yeah. Well, so I think I it for me it's not a huge surprise watching her results. I think that watching her, just following her on social media, she's gotten so good at social media, and I was really impressed with her bringing it up a notch this year. I also really enjoy watching her. She posts a lot of technique videos on social media, and I've been very impressed with how far she's come on both classic and skate with technique. And so without knowing much about her fitness heading into the season, I was really excited to see where she was going to be at just based on really big technique and what looks like strength progressions that she's made. She had one good year of balancing both skiing and running, and that I'm sure was a very addicting feeling. She really felt like she had it, and it seems like she first started running into trouble in the spring after that running ski season where she dealt with some injury, took very little time off post ski season for recovery, and I'm sure she kept trying to chase that high of I know I can do it because it happened one season. But usually your body will allow you to do it for a while, and then it's the long-term effects post that I think that athletes that deal with overtraining kind of, that's what I'm guessing what it is overtraining,
Yeah,
and lack
hard
of
to speculate.
recovery.
It's hard to
But
speculate on this, but oh, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm bummed because if that's what the case is, and if she's truly identified, if she's recognizing finally that that's what it is, we're probably not going to see her the rest of the winter. It doesn't take, it takes more than a month to recover from something like that. So I'm bummed. I was hoping, I think that she still has it. She just would really have to sit down, and I think she could she'd have to sit down and say how if I really want to try to make both work, you'd have to build in some good rest period throughout the year. I still think that there's a chance she could try something like that, but she would at least need a year or so to get back on her feet.
I was very nervous 2 years ago when she did. She came off. So first she had, sorry, the amazing trail season, really good ski season, and like took like 1.5 hours off. And then I saw pictures of her at like France with Courtney Dauwalter. I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that. That was the only time though. I will be honest, like, and I'm kind of someone who I get the overtraining concerns and everything too. I think the body can be more resilient, and people actually like they blame the wrong thing sometimes when it comes to overtraining. To me, I was looking at it like if she actually is having fun and wants to go do this, she'll be fine. And honestly, she might have been fine. She rolled the ankle right when she went on that first race, I think, and that was the thing that was like
Hmm.
took her out because I'm sure then she was like, "Dang it, I'm the cover girl for Golden Trail Series. I'm now sidelined." And the second I come back, so like I would have felt the pressure as like
Yeah.
that athlete, kind of like now I'm scrambling, and I maybe am a little bit cooked because I just came off this 16 months basically straight of competing. I maybe should have just taken a break. That if there was a mistake overtraining wise, it might have been that. But correct me if I'm wrong. I thought it was even 6 months ago, or maybe I'm even thinking of a summer ago, where she kind of on social media was like, I'm going to lean more into skiing. And this is when we saw more of the technique videos. We saw that like, wow, she's becoming more solid. Maybe she can be the terrestrial hog for our team, like actually. And the classic is coming along, all that stuff. So I kind of felt like even last year I was excited. What's it going to look like? And I don't think she had a terrible year last year. It wasn't as good as I would have expected given some of those growths and given the singular focus. I'll worry about trail running when I care about. So yeah, I felt the same way coming here. I'm just not sure if it's overtraining too. Like there has been some things about her lifestyle that was she shared and did not want to have that. Right? We don't need to totally dive into that, but it did occur to me that if that's actually something that she hasn't really maybe we'll say like cleaned up a lot, hey, you can't do that forever, right? You can get away with that when you're 20, 21, but like that is not a lifestyle habit, right? That you can continue. So
Well, and
I
based
don't know.
on my knowledge, it was very overblown in the press. The comment was kind of taken out of context. So
Okay.
the comment was she likes to party. And she definitely, to my knowledge, enjoys a good party, but I think that it's not
No, no, no,
after.
no. No, hold on. Yeah, wait a minute. She said,
Correct me.
I will, because she was saying she was doing an OD, and she's like, this is the first time in like 7 months that I haven't started this after being, I don't know if she said the words hungover, but coming off of, she insinuated, right, like it was that routine. So clearly, even that successful trail run season,
Oh yeah, that's correct.
like,
Yeah.
okay, so sorry, go ahead.
No, but yeah, in general, I think that it was she was surprised
Oh, sure, the blowback,
by
push.
the blowback. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. And I don't mean to bring it up even as let's rail on that, but it was a subtle thing of like, and a lesson to youngsters too out there, right? Like there are certain lifestyle things, and I have this with my own life too. Whether it's you can kind of put up and shoulder all the outside stresses that aren't just training related. You can shoulder those when you're in your early 20s a little bit, and they do impact you, but like at some point it's your body is like this is not a sustainable lifestyle. So I don't know if that's even related to Lackley. She also seems like someone who's so focused in training, like and her boyfriend's kind of coaching her and like watching that. You see the videos, right? Like she's really
Yes.
dialed in. She's bought into a lot of the Norwegian like style and approach. So I'm kind of shocked that like that would be the thing, right? If it's an overtraining thing, that would be the problem because it's like now you're sort of under an umbrella where that's really not common. So I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that, we can move on to another topic too.
I'm good with another topic.
um, yeah, let's talk a little bit about the distance races. Any
Absolutely.
takeaways you had there? There was the Caroline Simpson first World Cup win. I felt like there was some really strange results across the board, but yeah.
I mean, Davos is always fun. It mixes it up a little bit. You have the altitude, the aerobic athletes with large aerobic capacities are always going to come out. I think, I mean, on the women's side. you had my dog was in fourth, which I was very impressed by. I thought that was fantastic. To be honest, like I know she's been dipping her toe in the water with distance skiing a bit, but I think that if you have her and Sudling in a team sprint leg at the or her in a team sprint leg at the Olympics, they're going to be hard to beat. Um, and then I was also really impressed. You had Gina Del Rio and Rosie Brennan. They were in 12th, 13th, and I thought that was very impressive. They're both on the younger side. Del Rio is in the U23 bib, and they both are on small, I pretty either probably less than four. I think there's less than four Australian women on the World Cup, and I think Gina's the only woman competing
From Andorra. Is it
for
Andorra?
Andorra. Yeah, so I mean, being on those smaller teams, that's a long time of traveling, racing, training on your own or in a small crew, and I was impressed by both of those results.
Yeah, Rosie Fordham, she's the old teammate of Kendall Kramer at UAF, I believe, too. Which this is like you said, Davos kind of produces some of these interesting results. I didn't know how much stock I could put into them for that reason. So when I saw that
Hmm.
even too, I was like, well, obviously
Well,
courses can change a lot. But yeah, like if you're Kendall
well,
Kramer, are
think
you going
about
to be there?
junior. I mean, I think coming off of world what U23s and World Junior Champs last year, both of them were very strong contenders. Um,
Mhm.
and so I think you can put a little stock into it.
Okay. Yeah, no, and Gina Del Rio placed 12th. She is 21, so she's young. Yeah, I think if maybe I said that the wrong way too cuz I was like I think Kendall was in this race, right? Yeah, she was 44th. So this course maybe did well at altitude. I would have thought Kendall maybe would have had a shot, but the snow. I read some of the stories even with talking about Saveli Krostalev where maybe the Russians were making excuses too, right? But like, oh, it's fast snow. They're not really used to it, right? And I was like, okay, maybe that's why someone like Kendall didn't do as well as a Rosie Fordham, more of a power skier and can take advantage of it. It's hard when you're not like there at the venue because I feel like then you ski on the snow, you're like, oh, this is going to help this type of athlete. But I was curious as to maybe that's the reason why someone like even Maya Dahlquist gets a fourth place finish too. Or I didn't analyze enough of her video, like what she really looked like. I mean, Astrid Slind was third. She's kind of a distance skier, so some of those people are pretty normal. Mua Ilar to me is like the I have her as my dark horse for the overall because I feel like there's a chance
I
she's
don't
young.
even know if you can call her a dark horse. Like she's second right now, or was second before the
Okay,
weekends.
the reason she's kind of a dark horse though is she's the third at best, the third best distance skier on her own team.
That's true. Well,
And
when you're the Swedish women team, if you're the third best distance skier, you're probably one of the third
yeah.
best in the world.
Well, Frida and Ebba are kind of the household names, I feel like. And then Diggins is the one I was like, if Frida and Ebba do the Swedish taper for global games, like they're kind of
Hmm.
out of the overall. And
That's
it
true.
almost it feels like it's handed on a silver plate to Diggins if she just kind of shows up. You know, she doesn't even have to prioritize. It's like who else is gonna beat me? And my
Hmm.
answer to that is, well, Mo Ilar might because she has everything to go for this, right? Like she doesn't have anything to her name, her resume really at all. So like winning an overall in an Olympic year would be an amazing thing for her to do, and heck, it might help her in the Olympics too. Who knows?
Hmm.
But she's just really being very consistent, all conditions, all the stuff. And I think if you're someone like Diggins, you've already got a few crystal globes in the closet. You're like, hey, I'm all in on the Olympic 10K. Like if I lose a globe for that reason, it doesn't matter too much. But I think Muallar is going to be like every race. Like, at some point, you have to make that choice, I guess. Which that would be kind of tricky.
I'll be really interested to see what she decides to do.
Right? Yeah, like it's kind of a side storyline almost. Okay, cool. Last question. I know I got to let you go because I've had you on your way longer than I said. I was like 5-10 minutes. Give me a couple of hot takes. Like, well, we have people in the chats going, we need Aaron on here all the time. So you've earned your regular occurrence. What was your take on Neprieva and Kroslev?
That's a To be honest, like it's just we've never seen them race on the World Cup. It's so hard to know. I know that they've been competing in Norway and they've been doing well. Um, I mean, we're giving the Americans a lot of grace, like, oh, it's only period one. They have a lot of room to keep growing throughout the season. First couple races are always, I think that it's definitely hard to just take away one race weekend and say this is how it's going to be all season. I do think that they will probably um, learn a lot from it. But I was definitely surprised to see them, especially in the distance races, as far back as they were. I was expecting at least the top 15. So um, maybe it's just you're chalking it up to a really strong, like everyone is ready to roll, and they've had to deal with a lot of back and forth this year, and so maybe they just it's hard to say that they weren't as prepared as they needed to be. I'm sure they've been training, I'm sure they've been getting it in, but not knowing if you're going to race or not mentally, I'm sure that is tough. So definitely not where I thought that they'd be, but ready, not ready to write them off yet.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on them, and I'll share them as the show continues. But the one question I would ask follow up here for you, because I saw that it was mentioned on a story as far as a wax prep standpoint. So you know what it looks like to be on the World Cup and that side of things. And there was a comment from Krestov's teammate Ardashev, who was they asked him like, well, who's going to be like taking care of their skis basically, and
That's a great
he said
question. I don't know the answer at all.
okay, but he said like there's one guy, I think a Russian coach or someone who's going to be there, but also he made a mention. I think the quote was something like they're going to be oh, here it is. There are agreements for other teams to help them. The service people are also communicating with their foreign colleagues, their friends. I think everything will be fine with the skis. I thought that was interesting because it's like, yeah, I didn't think about that. If it's so hard to get these two athletes there, visas, approval, all that, it's like you're not going to be able to just bring the entire and then on
Well,
top of that, they've been using HF and stuff like that, I guess, in Russia. So their expertise even on the new waxes is like ground zero. I mean, that's like a massive thing. So if you had a friend who was like, hey, we'll just take care of you, fine. And maybe they are friends, but we know there's a lot of conflict there. So not saying there's something nefarious, but like, what did that support actually look like? I don't know. It's kind of that would be a
also
story to
curious
notice.
about what equipment they're on. I know that just in general, there a lot of companies have said, "Oh, we're not
Right.
selling directly to Russia." Curious what that means for world athletes or
Right.
neutral Russian athletes competing on the World Cup. I'm assuming they'll probably get the support that they would normally do, but again, like if you're not getting the skis, Russian athletes historically have probably gotten very, very good picked skis. And if
Right.
that's not on the same level, you're kind of getting a direct correlation of what middle of the fields. And I'm not going to say anything else because I would still like to continue to get all the skis that I receive, please.
No,
But I
I was
think
going
that
to
that is
ask.
a difference as well.
Yeah, I asked Savelli that when he was on our show about the equipment, and obviously Forcott is like the Polish thing. You saw the whole shift over
Hmm.
there from the ski side of things. I would have to go back and listen to his answer. It might have been a little bit of a lost in translation kind of thing, but also I got the feeling that it's like they've had to figure that part out. Whether it's like I don't know if it is even someone going over there to the Fisher factory and kind of like these skis are for some random Norwegian who doesn't even exist, and now
I've
we're
heard that there's been instances of that for
sure.
multiple companies. Yes.
Yeah, so that's one of those stories that investigative journalists really should go, talk to Fisher too, right? Has there been reporting on that or coverage of it? But all right, cool, Aaron, thank you. You're welcome back to join us next time. We
Well, thanks for
appreciate it.
having me.
Yeah, awesome. Have a good one.
Bye.
That was Erin Manning. She joined us on the podcast. You can check out our long form interview we had with her as well. It is up on Spotify, Cedar Skier podcast as well. Maybe I'll have to get it up on YouTube now that I'm kind of starting the YouTube thing. We can. I've been trying to upload some old episodes to our YouTube channel. Of course, there's no video to it, but that would be a good one too. She's doing so many great things in the Nordic community here in the U.S. and, as you can tell, is an expert World Cup commentator. I If I can, I will try my best, Aaron, to see if I can push having you join me on the Lake Placid broadcast, because that's, as of right now, the World Cup Finals is the only one that I know of that I'll be doing some play by play. Not for Ski and Snowboard Live though, it'd be for Outside TV. So it'd be fun to have someone who can really bring an educated look at everything. So that was fun having you on the show. On the Russian side, I think this was obviously a storyline coming into this weekend. Like, how well would they do? The sprint, neither Dasha Neprieva, who is Natalie Neprieva's younger sister, or Savelli Krostlev made the heats, and they weren't even really all that close. Although I guess Dasha was reasonably close. With the course being that short, as it was brought up in some of the Russian tabloids too, the distance from like qualifying in 30th and being 44th or 52nd, it's not quite the same as in a normal World Cup. It is pretty tight. There were some stories though. I have to say I love Savelli's transparency and honesty and kind of humor, you could say, after some of these things. What was the one after the sprint? I know I've lost the article I had up, but he talked to the press afterwards. I think there was some quote in there like, "I did terrible." Someone asked, how did it go? I was terrible. Like he was just straightforward, not making excuses, not trying to be too philosophical or anything. He's just like, it didn't go as well as I thought. And I think he mentioned too, like, 30 seconds in, his legs were just flooded at altitude. It was a fast track. I do think one thing to note for those of you who maybe don't know him as an athlete quite as much, he is a distance classic specialist. So freestyle sprint is definitely not his best event. I still would have thought there's a pretty good shot he'll make it in. He is essentially Russia's Alvar Mirbach. He was a 3-time world junior medalist, 2 of those gold, I think in 2021 when he was 19. Was it 2021, 22? I don't know. I'll have to look it up at some point. But bringing the facts, Taco Bell guy can get mad at me. Anyway, so it wasn't his best like discipline, and none of the events would have been. Even the 10K freestyle, certainly not quite as much. But still, I think the shock for him, mostly by what I am reading in some of the press, was the fast snow actually did play a role for him. Which, if you think about it, like skiing on probably in the forest in Russia on cold, dry snow, maybe not as steep of climbs or steep and fast descents. It would be a little bit of a shock, I guess, to hop into some of these World Cup courses. I'm not there making excuses for it, but I think it's somewhat legitimate, especially if you're not a sprinter. But on that note too, like, would we have expected the Ivo Niskanen of Russia to come in and qualify in a skate sprint? Maybe not, The other thing, though, that Aaron kind of touched on, too, the travel and the stress that these guys have been under, this actually is kind of understandable. You haven't even been outside of your country, really, in, 2-3 years, all that much. I know Savelli did training camp in Livigno as well, but to come to this new environment, to get the clearance to do so all last minute, the actual travel day was insane. I was reading some things in the press about that as well, that, like, the arrival time, the rest they would have had, the time on the track they could have actually seen it would have been pretty limited. So all that considered, I think is like, for sure on Savelli's side, is like, I'm not totally shocked. His 52nd seemed a little worse than I think Neprieva was maybe 39th or something like that. The thing about Neprieva is she's more of an all-around skier. So I think she has the capacity to be a contender in like everything. And so that was maybe a little bit more of a shock to me that she didn't make it. And then on the distance side, we saw Krostelev take it out hard. And I'll pull up here the splits where he exactly was. He was in 4th after 1.7K. So that split right off the bat. He was pushing it quite hard. Had slid to 8th by 2.7K. I know that's very early on in the race. But you can already see sliding a little bit. And then at 5K, he would have been already down to 19th. So he slid 11 spots from 2.7 to 5K. Already there, the wheels are kind of coming off. If I had to guess there, I think part of that is a little bit of the Russian mentality in an individual start or any distance race. Like, you're just kind of like redlining right away. That at altitude in Davos, first World Cup weekend, maybe not the greatest strategy necessarily, but I appreciate him for putting himself out there. I thought it was kind of made it somewhat entertaining. Also in these individual starts, which I got to be honest with you, I am not a fan of the current individual start format. Not because of the distance or that they have them. I think individual starts really do need to be 1-lap courses. As ridiculous maybe as that sounds, hopefully I have some of the old school guys on my side here, where it's like this idea of starting position, catching a ride, everyone ending up being on this kind of like hamster wheel, passing each other, little 2.3 or 3.3K loops. It takes away the spirit of the individual start. The individual start should be really person versus self. And again, this isn't an excuse on Savelli's part, right? But when you're starting that early, you've got no time checks, no awareness. Some of the other later starters are able to work, almost literally work with each other at some point, in addition to having the times. It's not a very fair advantage. Like the individual start to me should be one of the fairest races out there because it doesn't, unlike a mass start where positioning, you don't have that sort of mountain bike effect where you got to be in the front row, or you're not going to be able to move up as easily, right? It should just be like a time trial. And I think we don't have that. I know it creates a logistical nightmare for FIS and organizers, and it might make the product worse from a camera angle availability, but it's already kind of a niche product as is. So I would just say maybe we need to lean into it as being very unique and say the individual start is true. You're going to be out skiing in the woods on your own, kind of a thing. And I think even if you increased, if they're going to go this route, like increasing the intervals even to 45 seconds or a minute. So you're like really skiing by yourself, most likely. If you catch someone, fine. But like extending it that much, I think would be interesting to do. I know a lot of venues aren't really necessarily built for that, but I would even be open to, if we're going to do it this way, not worrying too much about making every inch of the course super technical. Like I think you could have some flat wind blowing. It should be something that like the average Nordic skier can kind of relate to too. Oh, look at that guy. He's gonna have to buck the wind across that field, right? Add just a touch of that. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. And in the ages, honestly, from a production standpoint too, I know I said, yeah, it's gonna make it harder, but let's be honest. I go back to the Western States 100 video production this year. If you haven't seen that, you should go watch how they did that. I mean, everything from drones to it's a 100-mile point-to-point course, and they had boots on the ground at various aid stations. They had interviewed crew members. They had cameras on the ground. They had the drone shots and everything. You got to see every square inch of that. If Western states can do that, FIS should be able to do that too. So I think it's kind of lazy to use that as an excuse. And I think it would be a better product if they really made it a little bit true individual start. I did want to read a few more comments and quotes from Savelli here. Let's see. Athletes tour to ski. Oh, this is the one. Sergei Volkov is waiting for his application for neutral status. So that was the quote we had. Volkov, it was second in the Russian comp to Sergei Ardashev recently, and so they had asked him some questions about Savelli and Dasha Neprieva. Neprieva is his girlfriend. And so this was a question: how are you coping with the last few days? This is prior to the World Cup, and he had said, I spoke with Dasha on the phone yesterday. She's understandably emotional. Everyone's watching. I just love seeing my girlfriend happy and smiling. The weather's wonderful there. The track is tough. The corduroy, Dasha's absolutely glowing with happiness, and that energizes me too. I won't hide the fact that I was even more worried about her than myself because this is her World Cup debut. If she's in good shape, something might work out. Although it's probably hard to expect perfect shape given the travel time. It took us a long time to get from Tiumen to Chisavaya, and then she had to travel 2 days to Davos. That's a really long break, especially in terms of training. Maybe with fresher weather, she'll be able to do better. She's possibly the strongest speed sprinter in Russia. She has real potential in this discipline. And then the next question was asked, do you have any idea how their service is organized since they went practically alone? If I'm not mistaken, Evgeny Uftakov is flying in to see them. There are agreements for other teams to help them. The service people are also communicating with their foreign colleagues, their friends. I think everything will be fine with the skis. So, and then this guy, he's applied for neutral status as well, still waiting on it. Savelli joked about his World Cup debut. My main achievement was not falling during the race. See, I love it. So that's the kind of humor I'm talking about. Let's see. He placed 25th in the freestyle. That's what a debut is like. The main achievement was not falling in the race. And oh yeah, we also earned a quota. Krostolov wrote on his Telegram channel. Following his performance at the World Cup, Krostolov received 4 Olympic quotas in the sprint, time trial, skiathlon, and marathon. That's the end of that short little snippet. Let's see. And I'm trying to find the longer article, see if we can get a couple of quotes from him. This is Olympic silver medalist Alexander Panshitsky noted that the snow in Davos is very fast. He said the Russian primarily needs to work on his technique on such high-speed tracks. This is a quote from the Russian Olympic silver medalist. He says, Krostolov ran a decent race, but he lacked freshness at the end, and on such fast snow, a loss of energy quickly translates into a loss of tens of seconds. Overall, everything is fine. There's room for improvement. His debut showed that it's better to identify weaknesses now than to bring them to the Olympics. Savelli didn't have a disastrous race, and most importantly, he earned an Olympic quota, blah, 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 blah. That was the number one goal. Here's Neprieva's thoughts. She was 39th in the sprint, and her thought on the sprint was, I learned and experienced what a real sprint is, and I loved it. This is all English, by the way, Russia to English. So arriving here the day before yesterday, so that's kind of tough, sorry, from Chusovoy and going out for just one run without any special training. My last speed workout was at the mass start in Tiumen. I was really fired up. I've never experienced such a challenge. Starting at an altitude of 1,600 meters, fast snow, strong competitors, everything was new and incredibly exciting. It was a huge improvement and a real leap forward, the athlete wrote on social media. And then it says, the Russian certainly performed well in the time trial. Like Kroslev, she looked confident on the climbs, but noticeably lost time on the descents. That's interesting. So I didn't watch the footage. I don't have access to the footage of the qualifying rounds. It would be kind of interesting to watch the two of them because even Savelli was joking about on our interview that the downhill's really not his expertise, you know? And so the Davos course, as we all did see, was pretty crazy and would have posed some problems for anyone, much less someone who's not super confident, much less someone who is under the kind of attention that that these athletes would have been at this event. I can only imagine that. So I think it's a little bit interesting. The more I think about my initial reaction with the Russian results, I was kind of disappointed, to be honest. Like I wanted to see them in the mix because it would have been more entertaining. And then in the distance race, I thought, wow, maybe we're going to see something from Savelli in his not expert technique. Like it's possible. When he came through that first time check, I thought this might be the real deal. And of course, the fact that he sort of put it all out there but fell apart, not to be totally unexpected either. And I think this commentary from what was his name, Pensinski, is kind of interesting as far as just noting the snow in Davos is very fast. However, another one of the excuses that was put forward in Russian media was they're not used to skiing on the non-fluorinated waxes. It's like, well, okay, if you're skiing on HF waxes, then how does that matter? First of all, if HF waxes are faster theoretically, so are you not used to skiing on fast snow or not? And I get it. You could ski with HF on slow snow, and that's a different feel than racing in Davos at altitude. But I don't know. I think the bigger thing to look into is like, where is the Russian tech team, support team going to be when it comes to making skis fast? Let's just say in an imaginary world, the war ends in Ukraine, the entire Russians, everyone's back on the World Cup in next season. Like, it seems to me like it took a long time for the service teams to really learn the ins and outs of what was necessary to make skis fast from a combination of the grinds, hand structures, different products, that sort of thing. So are the Russians kind of behind? I mean, if they're just skiing in Russian snow exclusively for 3 years, they're definitely not coming into data points or gathering data points at different venues. And we see even in America, but even, Norway, Finland, some of these other countries that are more established on their home turf, they still might struggle a little bit when they go to XYZ arena, right? So anyway, that's I think as much of a storyline, but I'm curious to see how they will do it with a little bit of adjustment because yeah, it was their World Cup debut too. Like that is something. I said earlier, Savelli's kind of the Mielbach of Russia, and I sort of think that's true. But just imagine if we had taken the 19-year-old two-time world junior champion at 19. Like if he was in his third year of World Cup racing right now, I kind of imagine he would be a little bit different skier than he is currently. Yeah, he's been racing against other Russians, which to me is certainly like, it's not nothing. I would think that has helped his growth in some way, but it might be sheerly physiological versus race tactics, composure, the mental side, strategy in a World Cup, right? Like all the things that really, start to matter. So my hope just for him personally is that he gets more opportunities here and it's not kind of a one and done and then 2 more years off. Like obviously we want this war to just be over so like the Russians can come back. I've seen some comments and it's been a little bit disheartening, honestly, to see some of the, I would say, kind of disrespectful, almost inhumane quotes and comments that people have put on Instagram with the news of those two athletes coming to the World Cup. To me, it's kind of like, regardless of what your views are on this whole situation, like for you to sling an arrow here towards these two people who are just people and just athletes seems kind of uncalled for too. You're doing the thing that you're kind of, you know, theoretically standing to condemn in terms of from a human to human standpoint. That was a little bit discouraging, and I got to imagine, you know, hopefully maybe they're staying off of social media enough to not see some of that. But if you know that you're traveling to these different venues with sort of that controversy hanging over you, that can't be easy either. I would struggle on that side. Aaron brought up a good point about the ski side though too. Like, what kind of skis are they actually skiing on? What's the quality and the level of that? Does that make a difference too? I don't know. We'll have to see. 2 weeks they got to get ready for the Tour de Ski. We didn't really break down some of the crashes and falls and sorts of things like that, but I might have to take a we might be able to do the Ajay the video review. I did want to try and do that, or maybe I should test it. We can watch Klabo in his fall just for the sake of doing it. Let's try a screen share here. Oops, as we're getting to the end, and then we'll do some callbacks as well, or what are we calling them? Callbacks, speak pipes, the audio stuff. We do have a couple of those, and I think I'll just share my screen because if I share my screen, people should be able to hear it, so that should work as well. But for now, let's see if I can see my screen. Share screen window. Let's take a look at this. All right, people. What happens if I make this full screen? It should be better, right? Theoretically. Oh, open this guy up. Look at this. I got my little tools out so I can draw all sorts of stuff on Klabo. There's Johannes right there. Okay. You know, here is Shanava. We haven't even talked about this guy yet. What a return to the World Cup. Lucas Shanava, former Cedar Skier podcast guest as well. There were some serious stories about how he was very depressed about the fact that he was not going to be able to even maybe have an Olympics, much less race on the World Cup. Close this screen, Ajay. Get your act together. No, I didn't want to do that. Now I lost everything. All right. Can we hide this somehow? I don't even understand how to use all my tools. There we go. We'll just kind of make it. Okay, maybe that wasn't possible. Maybe I can't do what I envisioned it doing. All right. Well, we'll watch Klabo slip and fall and make a comeback, and then we'll make some comments on it. Here we go. And I mentioned Mirvold applied the strategy as well of basically just, oh, we got to load a little bit. Mirvold was like, I'm not going to mess around. I'm just going to go in the front. That's kind of how Shanava approaches the sprint races as well. Content is not available. Oh, no. What happened? See if I can. There we go. All right. Get it again. So Shanava taking it from the front. I thought, you know, we see sometimes this from Klabo where he's hanging around in the back. And part of me was like, is he taking this too much for granted? I know it's easy since it already happened, but there was a part of me that was a little bit concerned right off the top, like this might not go well for him. But in the back of my mind, I also thought, well, oh yeah, it's Davos, it's 2 laps. He's probably going to wait till that straightaway, move into the front, right? Like that would be the play here. You can do whatever you want on the first lap, and then when you got the really wide stretch, he'll just move into the front. But Klabo in dead last right here. He's in six. Shanava leads him out. Ansgar Evensen, the Norwegians, just kind of like, we got this. We're so under control. It doesn't even matter what we do. Notice the lines, the different lines being taken. Shanava kind of in the middle there, and Klabo always likes to maintain his speed, so he takes the outer end. I still don't even really know what happened. I disagree with Aaron. I don't think that's a fall. He did not hit the ground, and he didn't break a pole, which is equally as amazing because usually something like this, especially with the slip and the legs going all over the place, I thought for sure the pole would have been broken. But no, he's Klabo. He's got the magic. He continues on. Now, he is moving up, right? So he even with the fallback, he applied my strategy, finds his lane, moves all the way up, and it's right around this point where I was like, that fall is not going to affect him other than he's expending a ton of energy. Well, actually, that's not totally true. Moser's up there moving in the front. You are thinking, wow, Clabo is kind of stuck there behind the Italian. I don't have my bib numbers up in front, or I would identify him. It might be, I think that's Mussolini though. And so you're like, wow, I don't know. Maybe Clabo can't do it. Certainly though, like I don't think I was wrong in saying at this point in the race, you could say there's no reason why Clabo can't advance. It looks like he's got a clear shot. He's definitely close enough. He only has to get top two. So really, he's only got to beat. Where's my Where's my drawing tool? I really just want to use it. I just want to. He really only has to beat this guy right here, and he has a nice lane. I want to be like John Madden. Ajay, can we make it yellow? I think that's important. Okay, here we go. So Clabo's just got to go here, right? He's got to go here. The defense is leaving him a lane. He's got his teammate Ansgar Evanson here, who's probably thinking, I could go here, I could go there. I got to make sure that I'm ready to not fall and crash on the turn, right? And then you've got up here, look at this big lead by Lucas Shanova. He has been hurt all year, so that should mean that his fitness is down. It's actually a paradox. He's in front, and really quite a bit of ground we have here. But Clabo, he's got a couple of options too. I think what he wants to do is take it here, like a hook and go route. If he decides to make a quick slant across the middle, that's not going to go well because you got the defender right there, the Austrian Benjamin Moser trying to prove himself and be the most famous Austrian skier other than, what's his name? Mika. So anyway, let's see how this transpires. Go back to full screen after I need to work on my John Mann. I need that Caliendo to give me some lessons. Clabo around the corner. Okay, now even more so. You're like, okay, he's definitely advancing, right? He's into second pretty much. And his skis are fast. It almost looks like he's gonna win. This is kind of crazy, actually. Is it? I hope it is actually Moser. I should pull up my heat sheet so I know I'm not misidentifying. But look at the inside line. This is the trouble on the turn. To me, I feel like the person I would say is in the most trouble right now is maybe Shanova, because he is in the lead, so theoretically he should be able to control where he wants to go, but he's got people all around him. If he goes outside, I need to bring up the yellow stuff again. If Shanova decides to take it, where's my tools? What happened? What on earth? It's not working. Show more options. Okay, apparently I lost my tools. They're gone forever. If Shanova decides to go to the outside, the skiers on the outside are going way faster, so he just get taken out, right? But if he cuts inside now, he doesn't have a lane there either. And meanwhile, Clabo, he really is gaining speed. You're like, he's gonna be fine. What happened here on this outside? Okay, so this is weird. It's like that push turn, the last push turn right there wasn't effective. It didn't redirect him enough. So you see him, he's like headed directly towards the fence. No good at all. And you almost feel like the Swede here, he's like looking over at Clabo like, what is he doing? He's going to fall. And Clabo goes way outside. And now you're like, what has happened? He is in massive trouble. He knows it. Now, it is kind of interesting how he didn't try to just ride this out, take this lane over here. Instead, he decides to cut all the way across. I guess maybe there's something to be said about shortest distance, but I think that move actually maybe would have cost him, because if he had stayed on the outside here, he might have been able to ride a little bit of a draft here from Evanson, and then he wouldn't have had to waste all that time going. He skied a lot of extra distance, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah, he gives up. It's over. Oh, look at Evanson. See, and Evanson even made it. If he had kind of just followed that route, I think he would have been fine. So, yeah, the lessons to take away for those youngsters out there, you can't really ever get too loose, right? You can't get too loose. The second you're too cocky, that's when you're going to fall. But also, you can really recover. If something crazy happens on lap one, don't give up, because as we even saw with Clabo there, he had the composure to bring it back and then lost it again. Evanson, Mochlini, I was right about that. So, Merkonjic, that was not Moser. Sorry. Was wrong on that. I don't have time here to pull up the crash between Pueo and JC, but the one comment I have on that, I was a little bit surprised that we saw Pueo get so mad. I was really proud of JC for being composed there in the finish area. I don't know if you saw that after the crash and everything goes bad. Like, JC just fell. It wasn't like malicious at all. So I do agree with Taco Bell guy in the comments here, kind of saying like he had only himself to blame there. If you want to get out, you feel like you're skiing the best, get out of traffic and be in front. You know, sometimes if you're sitting behind people, they might crash and you have to run over. Granted, Yami Pueo had nowhere to go. There's no question about that. But I feel like in that situation, how do you get mad at JC? He was clearly mad at JC. I thought that was very unsportsmanlike conduct on the play. I would have said it's like he should have just kind of rode with it, shook hands at next time, right? That's unfortunate. Okay, let's play a playback here, and the way I'm going to do it because I know the sound wasn't totally working, but I have a way that we're going to make it work, and I think if I share my screen, it will play. I think that's actually the reason it wasn't playing. The sound was not playing because for some reason I have to share it. I don't know why that would be, but we'll just do it. Share screen. Bring you to our mailbox here with our speak pipes here. So we got a couple. First, we better play Taco Bell, guys, because it wasn't played online. We can kind of respond to that. Oh, can we get the play? Here we go. Okay, I don't know why it's. Why are you being like this? For some reason, it's not playing now for me. Let's try Gavin and see if it works. Oh, it's trying to load. Sorry. This is supposed to be way more seamless. It should be just like I click it and then we play it and we respond to it. But we're working on the World Cup, the WhineLine portion of WhineLine. I'll try and refresh it. It seems like it's really struggling. Here we go.
Cedar skier, Taco Bell guy here. This weekend left me scratching my head a little, wondering where was that Ketterson? Is he sick? Is he being punished? Same with Laukley. We haven't seen Laukley yet this year. I do not know what's going on there. Also disappointed to see no women on the start line for the team sprint. Come on, guys. Is everybody sick? Let's go.
All right, first of all, I have to give Taco Bell got a lot of credit for really buying into the WhineLine, the talkbacks. I promise you, at some point, maybe it'll be episode 12, we will have this all nailed down where we have no tech issues. We'll play your thing. We'll respond to it in real time. It'll be so much fun. And because if you've been listening to the show here, you know, we kind of talked about this topic a little bit, both of the topics. We don't know what happened to Ketterson. We got to go and watch his YouTube video if he was sick or something like that. We talked a lot about Sophia Laukley here, middle of the show with Air Manning, so go back and check that out. And then the team sprint side, we've also kind of dissected that a little bit as well. And I think, I saw in the chat the comment coming back, kind of the follow-up is maybe Jesse skips this, but the young skiers should have been given a chance. What if they could have had a breakout? I'm a little bit more on that side too, where it's like if there was someone there, but it sounds like it was a team decision. So thanks again, Taco Bell guy, for calling in. Let's go to our another one. We have to the phone lines on the World Cup wine line.
Hey, this is Gavin Kench. I have a voice made for print media, as the saying goes, so bear with me. Just checking in from Anchorage here. I didn't follow World Cup much because I've been real busy with Super Tour. But my World Cup adjacent take is we all noticed that there were no female starters in Friday's team sprints. I'm well aware that these are people here, not horses. I know these people individually. I like them. If they feel that they shouldn't start the sprints, team sprints, they shouldn't. And I really do mean that. And I think we all get that. All that said, my take from the venue here in Anchorage is I heard a dozen or more people express some sentiments, some version of a sentiment that there are, quote, there are 20 women here who would have paid their own way to fly to Europe and take that start. No names, but you know who's been here. You know what club coaches are here. There's a lot of people locally who were pretty disappointed to see that. Again, we all understand why they didn't start, but I can share from on the ground in Anchorage that that was noticed, and that's a shame.
Okay, that's an awesome hot take. I hope you guys caught that on the wine line. I hope my audio audible is working here. Gavin bringing up that he's doing reporting. Great work. Boots on the ground, covering the Super Tour at Anchorage week 2. I can tell my I need to get some water here because I'm going to I'm gonna cough too much. I need to fill up the Skiologians mug. But basically saying that he's hearing that there would have been many women who would have paid their way to go race that team sprint. That's a tricky situation. My initial response to that is twofold. Kind of goes two directions. One is that if that's the case, I feel like the only way you could realistically like present some sort of an opportunity is, you know, Sunday night in Trondheim. If you hold that team meeting and go, gals, do we want to do the team sprint or not? Because if not, I want to just open it up to someone on the Super Tour if they want to come. Right? Like, is it even possible or feasible to have a conversation like that? I don't really know. But to me, it seems like if you're making the call on Wednesday night or Thursday night, it doesn't really matter even if you open it up. It's not really a genuine invite, right? Of, oh, hey, you know, Haley Swerble, if you want to fly yourself over here to Davos and hop off the plane, go directly to a team sprint, like that's not realistic. So I'm not sure if that's like a possibility. I feel like the Andy Newells of the world and the Matt Wickhams of the world can answer that question. I'm not really capable of. That would be my only like possible idea for a solution there. The other thing, though, I'll put this more on the athlete side of things too, not to rail on the athletes, but I also feel like the same people who might say I'd pay my way to go do this and I'd be there, I'm really bummed the opportunity wasn't presented, are also kind of the people who will say things like money is the obstacle, you know, for me to go over. Oh, it's $50,000 for this commitment or $2,000 for this one race or what have you. And I don't know if that's speaking out of both sides of your mouth too much, you know, but like, I do feel like if the sentiment is I would do anything to be there, then you can't also like leverage the cost being such a barrier for various other things. Like, this is why I'm retiring earlier. This is why I can't have a family or on the World Cup, or this is all the hard things. This is the reason I didn't perform well. I was stressed about finding money and solutions and bringing my Mexico. It's like, all right, it's one or the other kind of. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's the initial thought I kind of had in response to that. This is actually maybe one of the first moments we've had, an hour and 40 in, Gavin giving us this awesome nugget from the Super Tour. Speaking of which, head on over to Nordic Insights to read the story about the Super Tour performances. I got it on a different page here. I was pulling it up because, speaking of Haley Swerble takes this dominant minute win in the 10K Classic individual start, looking sharp. She has not had the most amazing start to the Super Tour season. In some ways, I feel like she had some bad luck, showed up at the start line late for her other individual start. Was that last weekend, I think? So if you pull up the points list, actually, I should maybe share my screen here. Let's see. I'll switch my screen share so you guys can see what I'm looking at. I used to be an online teacher, 5th grade, back in the day. I was so proficient at the screen sharing things back in the COVID days. Here we go. Pulling it up. You can see the Super Tour points list. Here's the women's Super Tour. Lauren Jerperg has been crushing it. She is leading 111 points. And she was 3rd in the Classic interval start yesterday in Anchorage. Haley Swerble, as I said, dominated. Nina Schonberger, Leadville's own right here. Really strong start to the year. A 3rd and a 3rd last week, and 4th in the sprint, which I'm like impressed by that. I don't think we're too much of a sprinter even. And then 10th in this Classic. That's a little bit, that's too bad. You know, like if she had pulled another 10 points there, I guess it's not going to make a huge difference. She'd maybe leapfrog Haley there. But no one's catching Lauren. So I think, as far as I understand, you know, like Lauren has the opportunity now to compete in the Tour de Ski. So that's going to be kind of interesting. Haley Swerble, when I spoke with her in the preseason, we wrote our preseason feature. You know, that was one of the pathways she was looking at. The other is, hey, I can go to U.S. Nationals. So the performance that we saw on Sunday for her winning, to me, that just is like, all right, she is still crushing it. And I still think probably the best distance skier on the Super Tour circuit. I mean, maybe Lauren has something to say about that too at some point, but maybe Lauren's fancying herself as more of a sprinter anyway. I don't really know. She's someone that I have not heard a lot about. To me, the news on the Super Tour with Nina is like, wow, she is really strong. She has bounced back from some of the injuries she's had, some of the tough things she's gone through. She is skiing very, very well in her first season at the University of Colorado, sitting in third place right there. But just he's going to be on the outside looking in, I would think, right? I wonder if Lauren denies her start, Haley doesn't want it, like Nina going to the Tour de Ski, it'd be kind of crazy. I don't think she's had a World Cup debut. She was supposed to have her World Cup debut in Minneapolis. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. On the men's side, you got Hunter Wonders leading the way. It's close up front. Michael Earhart, 89, just 5 points back. Hunter won his second Super Tour race in as many weeks. You can see he won the 10K Classic, he won the 10K Freestyle, so looking good on those distance races. On the sprint side of things, oh, sorry, he's Norwegian. Can't count him. Ari Edensten was the one who won the sprint on, it would have been Friday, I believe. I don't know if there's anything I saw when I was kind of looking through those Super Tour results. I was like, oh, should I bring this on the show or not? You can see Jesse Diggins, the only one who's auto-qualified for the Olympic Games. I think we might have to dive into this document on the show next time to really make sense of some of these other documents. You can find these and scroll through these if you want to yourself, looking on the U.S. Super Tour page website. I got a comment in the chat here. It's from Drew Larson commenting in Cedarquist. Any thoughts on Ogden's last turn in the sprints? Obviously, it wasn't ideal, but did he actually hit the deck and take a little spill? Is that how Jack snuck around him in the final? Honestly, Drew, I was thinking the exact same thing. And as you may know, like the replays were not showing us anything. To me, my best guess is, and we didn't get any quotes from Ben, I don't think, at least I didn't in my press release from Leanne Bentley. We heard some stuff from Jack about how much the race and the performance meant from him. But I was trying to scroll back and be like, wow, what really happened to Ben there? Because he looked to be in great position for podium potentially. My guess though is if you go back and we took a look just a moment ago at Klabo's, his second turn, not the time he fell, but the other time. And I think there was like one of those ruts was directing people even wider than they wanted to. And I think Ben got caught in one of those and then had to, lost all the momentum and had a bunch of extra distance pounded into him as he made it to the outside. I'm guessing that's kind of what happened. And then, I don't know, sitting inside his brain, even what he's thinking at that moment. When one moment you're thinking, this could be a podium if I can slingshot around this corner, to how many people are going to pass me here? And what's the difference between getting fifth or sixth or fourth? How much does it matter that much? He might have just lost his steam, but I didn't see anything and I have not heard anything as far as like him actually hitting the deck. I don't think he did spill though, because I feel like even Unger was 6, right, in the overall results. So it seems like even Unger would have maybe passed him if he had fallen. So I don't think that was the case, but he did look like he had really scrubbed a lot of speed and kind of given up some hope there when they showed the straightaway shot. But I think in the future here, one thing I would like to do on WhineLine is throw out my link to invite some of the athletes to join us. My vision for this show isn't to stop at having guests. I'd really like to see us do where we have you guys are able to comment in the comment bars. You can also send me the talkbacks, and you can send those to me at any point in time. You could, after the first race, you watch it, you think a thought, record it, send it to me. We'll play it on the show on Monday. You could, if you watch the races on Tuesday or Wednesday, you can send us something, at least for the time being. We can even play a take that you have if it comes to mind in the middle of the week. But I would like to have some participation where we can have those audio files playing from you, the fans. We also bring on commentators and journalists and experts in that regard to give their 2 cents, and also athletes and even coaches, right? Pop on for 3-5 minutes. We ask a couple of questions. We let them go. We probably don't hold their feet to the floor like we poor Erin. We kept her here forever, but she's got so many good things to say. She might have to be a co-host, honestly. But that's sort of the vision for the show. So I would like to have moments like this where we could bring Ben on, have him talk about his race. Walk us through that last turn, kind of a thing. I was thinking about throwing it out to Savelli actually, because he seems like a guy who would maybe have responded knowing he's hopping on the live stream. But we'll see. Maybe next time. He was good to talk to the press, which I thought was nice. This is another thing, a little bit disappointed. I'm sure we'll hear it on the Devin Kershaw show later, or maybe we already have if they've recorded it. But the fact that there was no comments in the press from Klabo after the sprint day, I get that he was disappointed. There's a part of me that really admires that about him. Like, wow, he was absolutely angry that the race had happened like that to him. He was mad. He chucked his poles, everything, the whole works. Um, and that is kind of admirable because even though he has everything and his record is perfect and he's just his status as a legend is just so cemented, he still is upset that happened to him, which I think is interesting. I think it's possible that there's a Davos thing with him though too. Remember that is where he lost to Pellegrino a couple of years ago. So maybe he's like upset when it seems like there's a place that's kind of haunting him a little bit or seems to have a grip over him. And if he had lost in a different way, or if this had happened in a different venue, he'd maybe wouldn't have cared as much. Either way, I think you should have talked to the press at that point. I think that says a lot when you kind of storm away. Don't say anything when you're out of the face of the sport. I'm not quite as strong on Devin's like I think everyone should every time, unless we're gonna make that we're gonna make it the standard, like in the NFL, the NBA. Like if they make media mix zones, you have to go and everyone needs to do this, right? Then he should. You should never be able to walk through. And if any reporter says, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you," the athlete should have to do it. If we're gonna make it that standard, then of course it should be that way. I think it's a lot to like place on Colombo's shoulders of like, since you're so good, you also need to be the spokesperson. That's not a rule. You could be a really quiet, amazing athlete too, right? And just be soft spoken. But again, if you want to grow the sport, you should probably be doing what you can. And I think it's a little disingenuous if he's not talking in this moment. Especially honestly, the 100th win was very historic. Him not making the quarterfinals for the first time since his debut is also historic. Klabo could have like, hey, just swallow it, man. You're not even as big a deal as you think. Just calm down, talk to the press. This is kind of a unique moment. You can relish in this failure because it actually highlights how great and successful you have been. This is the first time since your debut that you are not in a semifinal. Your thoughts. It would have been a great opportunity for him to say, like, yeah, I've been so blessed, like and talk about the run he's been on and all the things that it's meant and how he got there and what's inspired him. Like he could have gone that route. And I get it. It's hard to think about that in the heat of the moment. But I think it's a lesson to us younger athletes too, who are not always having a camera in our face or like you should be thinking right now of like how you would respond to certain situations, because chances are in the heat of the moment, you're going to revert to your deepest, darkest habit. And if that deepest, darkest habit is being informed by Instagram reels and watching game 3 of the NBA finals, and you're seeing people who are hot shots and hot heads and not having good ethics and sportsmanship, then that's probably what you're going to do too. And you shouldn't be like that. So a little bit of a lesson there, I think, of handling the post-race sportsmanship situations. I don't know if we probably need to close it up there because we've been going for a long time. This has been a fun show. I have other things I feel like I didn't even quite get to, which is hard to believe. Oh, we have one more. We have one more talkback, so we got to play that. We'll see. Gavin sent us another one, so this might be super tour related. I'm not even sure. Haven't listened to it, but we can't end the show without playing it. So I do have to share my screen. I know we're still low tech here. I thought we would have solved everything with the Zoom PodTrack P4, but apparently not. Here we go. Talkbacks. Leave us some talkbacks. All right, guys. Let's see. Here's the play.
Okay, Gavin again. I got another take. U.S. Nationals this year is going to be a knife fight. Kendall Kramer is going to come back. Kate Oldham is going to come back. Haley Swerble is rounding into form. Sammy Smith will have more than 4 days on snow and is pretty good at skiing. Johnny's going to come back for the men. I'm sure Luke is going to come back. Didn't run the numbers on who else, but there's going to be a lot of talent in Lake Placid in January. And sorry to say that the way that our World Cup crew has been skiing, there's going to be more spots open for the Olympics than is often the case. I feel like in many years, while everyone is playing by the rules, I feel like it's a little pro forma to believe that we're going to get someone from U.S. Nationals just because the World Cup folks have sewn up so many spots. You look last year, Murphy Kimball and Aaron Bianco were the sprint leaders. They didn't get spots for Trondheim. I think that's the right decision, but there's just no space for them. This year is going to be pretty wide open. I don't know if you want U.S. Nationals takes here, but given the performance of the World Cup folks, I think U.S. Nationals this year is going to be a show.
Of course we want them, and of course we love what Gavin's doing, kind of like getting boots on the ground to cover these domestic things. It is so important. So I think he brings up a good point. Like, the fact that you have not had some of these amazing performances sort of opens the door a little bit, and U.S. Nationals, I think, is going to be this spot where it's a little more competitive, a little more juicy than normal, maybe. I guess I say that naively. Like, there's people like Matt Leach who would have something to say about that, like other times where U.S. Nationals has served up some serious drama when it comes to making Olympic teams and all that. But if you're in that area, this would be an awesome chance to go watch some meaningful ski racing. You can put it that way. It's interesting. It brings up Sammy Smith too. I haven't read the feature on Faster Skier, so I apologize. I should get more educated, kind of where she's at from the soccer ski balance standpoint side of things, and where her fitness is at. And perhaps actually Gavin has talked. I didn't read through all of his stories from this weekend either to find some Sammy Smith quotes. So that definitely is something where, you know, she is an athlete that I feel like the U.S. ski team will want to have her be at the Olympics. But one, she's insanely talented. And two, she's a big storyline too. So it's like, she's a nice athlete to have on for multiple reasons. And she's young. She's got her whole career ahead of her. I hope she's on the Olympic team for all those reasons. Plus, I think she can contribute and help, obviously. And on the guys' side, man, it is so wide open. Like, this is going to be a fun storyline to track. Just like who makes the team. I feel like Ben and Gus are the only locks, and really you could make certain arguments that like they maybe shouldn't even be locks. Like they should just say, even if it's for the media, like there is no lock right now, right? We want to see people prove it, because I think that is kind of the mentality we might need to have as a little more of an Olympic trials track and field format attitude this year of like, hey, yeah, maybe JC is our best sprinter, but he needs to show some of that, right? Because that's going to say a lot about our program, and in the long term, where we go, what we do. We want to see you perform under pressure, live up to your potential in a couple of these World Cup races, right? I love JC Schoonmaker, so I really hope he does. And honestly, like, when some people are going to push back, what? Those are the only two locks? Yeah, okay, I get it. Jack Young, JC, they probably are going to be on the team, right? But to me, a lock is someone who is so far ahead. There's no chance that someone on the Super Tour could do anything to like supplant them. Like, they have to go, even if the craziest of all crazy things happen. And I think like Ben qualifying first in Trondheim and then getting into the final here this past weekend, come on, he is our first or second best sprinter, I think. And even if he slides down to third because JC goes and wins a World Cup, or Jack Young goes and wins a World Cup, or they go 1-2, right? It's those three are on the same level. So if you take one of them, you kind of got to take all three. That's a little bit how I feel. So those three are sort of in there. Gus is our best distance skier. Okay, but where do all those other three spots go? Ketterson is the one making the best argument right now. After that, I think it's completely wide open. So at a bare minimum, I feel like we've got two spots up for grabs for absolutely anyone. So that's exciting on the men's side. And on the women's side, like Aaron said, it might even be more wide open. Diggins has already qualified. Julia Kern, to me, would be sort of that other lock, potentially. And then I think after that, it's almost like anyone. And I think Elena has probably made the best case from the outside. And you could argue that Brennan's results have maybe been even a little better, but Brennan is a little bit more of a question mark, perhaps, and by her own admission, you know. I hope she arrives at a place where she can either say, I'm good, I can count on myself to compete at a very high level, or she kind of maybe arrives at a spot as like, you know what, this is so inconsistent, and I don't think I can medal or get on the podium or do anything of consequence. I've been to the Olympics before. I'm more than willing to let someone who could benefit from the experience moving forward to take this spot. It's not how I wanted to end my career, but it's kind of the writing's been on the wall, and I mean, it'd take a lot of grace and humility for her to do something like that, given how she has also sometimes had the door closed on her. But I think that's kind of, I'd rather see that than see Brennan go to the Olympics and have less than satisfying performances, both for her and for the U.S. ski fans. But either way, I like the take, and it does. I mean, I think it's really important, especially with the fact that heck, we don't have great production broadcasts and quality always, even on the World Cup. So we know the Super Tour stuff. We're not gonna. It's not like you can tune in and get an amazing product. That's a whole nother. We maybe should be able to do that, but what Gavin's doing, covering that, getting quotes, all that stuff is gold. And I might even have to think about doing a little collaboration here where even if he doesn't end up putting the quote in the story, if you can stick a phone in front of as many athletes as possible and get little 1-minute audio files, maybe we will have to do instant reaction shows each night of the U.S. championships. I don't know, just a thought. I know it kind of overlaps the Tour de Ski just a little bit, but I am tempted. I don't know where we're headed here. I know we go into the Tour de Ski. One thought I had was maybe hopping on live for every night after it for some smaller shows, instant reactions, or maybe doing it after each little segment. I will be having family in town at that time, so that's going to make it a little bit trickier for sure. We're hosting some people kind of from like December 21st all the way to January 3rd. So that's going to be kind of crazy. But if it works out, that's what we'll do. We'll let you know either way via cedarskier.com, or you can follow us on Instagram, or you can follow us, become a subscriber on Spotify. Anyway, we really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for joining us for the WhineLine. We're going to make it just under 2 hours, Kipchoge style here. We'll break the clock at the sub 2 hour project. It's been a good show. We'll see you next time. As you know, keep on striving